Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. I don't know why that was so prolonged, bit weird. So we are officially under the 3-week mark until The Flash is back for the rest or remainder of Season 8. Don't know if there's going to be any more breaks. Maybe, I don't know, but we're on this break after only airing the first 5 episodes a few months ago, but really this time has gone by pretty damn quick. It doesn't feel like it has been that long since we were watching the Armageddon event and enjoying the hell out of it. But of course, right at the end of the final part of Armageddon to just, tease us a bit for what was to come when we picked up with episode 6 this season, we saw this end credit scene of sorts with some Central City police officers walking through the halls with us focusing in on this photo on the wall of the CCPD taken on New Year's Eve in 2014, where there all of a sudden being this flash of yellow and purple lightning, and then, well, all of a sudden, Nora and Bart Allen appearing, or Excess and Impulse appearing in the background of the shot. Photobombing it. Now, since that point, we of course not just received one trailer for this upcoming episode, but two, though that second trailer did contain footage from at the very least the following episode as well. But now, well, we have some more promo material to go over that suggests there is more in this episode than we maybe initially thought, or at least more locations in the timeline than we thought we were going to be visiting. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to let me know general thoughts, theories, predictions, everything like that. I'm always curious to read them in the comments section down below, especially with this stuff, because you might have, might be thinking something that I'm not thinking. So let me know that in the comments section down below if you do. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to the Flash being back, want to drop a look, a like on the video to do all that. So this wasn't known at the time the first trailer came out for the episode, but the episode, title for episode 6, or, the episode we come back with is Impulsive Excessive Disorder, which of course incorporates the heroic titles of Bart and Nora, those of course being Impulse and Excess, but also abbreviated it's IED, which of course also stands for Improvised Explosive Device, which is something that could do, a lot of damage or be a distraction for something else going on. So there could be some like double, triple, quadruple, meanings within that title, who knows? But yeah, we did get the synopsis or description for this episode finally, and I say finally because we usually get these before trailers come out for episodes, but because of this break that we had to go on, and this break we had to endure, we had to wait. But in this video, we'll be going over the synopsis and the new things that it does hint at that aren't really hinted at too much in the trailers for this episode, as well as going over what moves forward from this episode, possibly into the rest of this season. But let's read out that synopsis. Picking up where Season 7 left off, after returning home from a visit for their parents' vow renewal, Bart and Nora quickly realize that things are not exactly as they left them. The duo race to repair any fissures in the timeline and restore everything back to the way it is supposed to be. So to start off the synopsis, we get the pretty much 100% confirmation that we are picking up from the end of Season 7 at the ceremony that we saw in the finale for last season with Barry and Iris renewing their vows. Because of course, when we picked up in Season 8, it had been, I think, 6 months, I think they said. 6 months or something like that, roughly. And they of course mentioned that Bart and Nora had gone back to the future. And though we knew this episode was going to have Bart and Nora and be focused around them, we weren't too sure when exactly it would be set in their eyes, like in their existence, in their reality. And though the trailer for the episode did show the vow renewal ceremony, and Barry and Iris saying goodbye, that didn't really confirm the events that Nora and Bart experienced was straight after that. It could have just been the show, connecting when we last saw them to their return to the future, and then maybe we pick up a certain amount of time afterwards in their timeline. But of course, based off the synopsis, when Bart and Nora do get back to the future, they are sort of like instantly going to be facing some issues and noticeable changes. Now, the thing that I have seen some people bring up is like, well, why don't they tell their parents if they notice these changes? And more specifically, Barry in the future about the issues that come up in this episode, and he deals with it. But I think the answer is, or maybe there's a couple of answers, but I think there's probably two sides to it. The first one being that, and this one's a pretty simple one if everything's sort of straightforward, Barry exists in that time in the past, and we know that things, that can make things even more riskier for time travelers if they exist in the time they're traveling back to. But of course, in the present day for us, and especially the region we see them time traveling to in the trailers for this episode, Bart and Nora don't exist. So they aren't going to run into themselves by accident or anyone that really recognizes them at that point in the, in the timeline at the very least. So if they go to 2013 or 2014 and run into Joe, he would have no idea who they are. And that's the same for if they run into Iris or Caitlin or Cecile or maybe even Barry if they go to a time where he's there. The other option is that maybe whatever changes in the timeline affects what's going on in the future. Maybe in the future something changes and Barry's not the Flash anymore, doesn't have speed or whatever it might be. There could be some weird things that are changed that are affected in the timeline at one specific point that changes whatever's going on in their future. So that might cancel out anyone else helping, and it has to be Bart and Nora that go back and fix it. But yeah, it will be interesting to see what changes exactly. Like, we know there are some things going on with Joe in the trailer and that he is shot, though we aren't sure whether he dies or not. Like, that isn't confirmed in the parts of the trailer we saw or even the synopsis. But the synopsis does allude to there maybe being more than just this thing that's going on with Joe, which we know at least brings them to the jewelry store sequence that's seen in the trailers, as well as some set photos. And that is when the synopsis says that the duo race to repair any fissures, not fissure, not one, but there's multiple, or at least two, in the timeline and restore everything back to the way it is supposed to be. Now, we actually already have some evidence to support multiple time periods being visited by Bart and Nora from stuff already shown in episodes and the trailers for this episode. So in the trailers for the episode, we do see Bart and Nora back in what seems to be the Christmas period of 2013. Of course, there are Christmas decorations about in some of the sets. And also they're in like a shopping mall where it looks like they're having like a Christmas sale or something like that. But there is also no Barry there, and we know the particle accelerator incident has happened at this time because we then see Bart and Nora in Barry's lab, and there is like the markings and other evidence of lightning hitting the lab. Of course, Eddie was still alive at this time, and there would be no Flash around to help out, especially if something happens to Joe. But then again, at the end of the final part of Armageddon, or the fifth episode for this season, we see Bart and Nora in a photo that says New Year's Eve 2014, not Happy 2014 or anything like that. They are on December 31st, 2014, or at least around the end of that year. So this is an entire year and some change after that moment with them in Barry's lab, most likely at the very least. And as we know, Barry, had recovered from his coma and was the Flash at this point in 2014 on New Year's Eve. So I am curious to see what else could be going on, and more importantly, who is responsible for it. Like, could it be some leftover stuff from the Armageddon event that maybe like Reverse Flash caused that Barry wasn't aware of because it didn't affect him directly at that point and he didn't fix it? Or is it someone else or something else? Like, that'll be very interesting to find out. Now, the one thing I have to bring up that could be a point of concern, and it just sort of negates everything we talked about, I really hope that someone didn't just accidentally put New Year's Eve 2014 on that photo instead of 2013. Because some people might get confused because the Flash started in 2014 towards the end, but in the timeline of the show and the timeline of Barry's life, he gets hit by lightning at the end of 2013 in December. And then he's in a coma for a certain amount of months and then wakes up. I really hope someone doesn't realize that, because that's a really simple thing, because it happens in Arrow season 2 at the end of 2013. I really hope that's not a mistake, because if that's a mistake, that's a really big rookie mistake, and it's a bit of a worry if that's the case. But fingers crossed that isn't a mistake and we are just visiting multiple periods. But if it is a mistake, then yikes. Now, someone that's not actually shown at all in the promo, like the trailer or the synopsis or hinted at, is Jay Garrick. Jay Garrick is actually in this episode. Now, from what we can tell, it's the future Jay Garrick. I think, based off everything, it seems like it's the future Jay Garrick, unless it's a Jay Garrick that traveled through time because maybe he senses there's something going wrong. But we know that there's a scene with Jay Garrick and Bart and Nora in the Flash Museum. Now, in the trailers, we do see Bart and Nora in the Flash Museum. So I'm assuming Jay meets them there or something along those lines. But Jay Garrick is in this episode. Not too sure about Joan Garrick. I'm not too sure, Joan Williams, I think it is, or whatever, Jay's partner, Joan. Not sure if she's in the episode, but Jay's meant to be in the episode at the very least. Now, obviously, we do have Eddie Thawne in this episode. Eddie Thawne's not mentioned in the synopsis, but we know that he's appearing in more episodes after this. He's in at the very least 2 more episodes after this one. So we'll be very curious to see if this episode sets up those future appearances, because they would have known if Eddie was coming back. They knew at this point when they made this episode and wrote the episode that they were going to use Eddie later in the season, most likely. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. So I am curious to see whether that's all set up in this episode. But also with Bart and Nora going forward, We know that the actor who plays Bart is pretty preoccupied, so I do wonder if we see them again this season, or if they thought, look, we're not going to be able to use them later, let's have some fun now and use them for this, because maybe this episode could have been an episode that Barry was used anyway, but they just sort of rewrote it to put Bart and Nora in instead, because they weren't going to be able to use them later on in the season, just due to, actor availability. Not too sure, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what they do. I mean, they're letting them time travel in this episode, so they're sort of giving them the free reign, so maybe that opens the door for them to sort of have some fun later on in the season. And finally, the last thing to mention, people have been asking me a new trailer. I don't know if we're going to get one. If we do, it'll probably be in like the next week or two, just because the show's back in under 3 weeks, so they're not going to release it the day before the episode comes, the day before the show comes back. We'd get it at least a week before, so if we get one, expect it in the next week to just under 2 weeks or something like that. But I'm not expecting one because they released that trailer a couple of weeks ago, and I think that's just enough, to be completely honest. And I wouldn't mind another trailer. I mean, it's something for me to go over and talk about and enjoy, but I just don't expect them to drop one. But I might be wrong. That's for us to wait and find out. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below everything you want to talk about from this video. Any theories, any predictions, everything like that. I'm always curious to read them. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.